Yeah, man, your vibe just like lights up a room.
Uh,
Have you always been like this positive, or did
you
you have to
know,
develop that?
I think over time, Colin, I think to some extent, I think it's a part of a little bit of my DNA. I think my mother is 80, be 81 here in August, but she bowls like twice a week. She travels around the country in the summer. I mean, she's so energetic, and she's a breast cancer survivor, bro. And I remember when I was 13, what she was going through, and just to see her spirit, her energy of and hope that she was going to get through this, man. And this is back in the day. This is the 70s, where like the big staples going right through her shoulder all the way through her breast. I mean, it was, but it just never stopped her, never stopped her. And fast forward, I don't know if you knew this, but my son was diagnosed with cancer last year,
Oh,
and he was going through uh, the military, and unfortunately, he now has to take a step back. But the silver lining of it is cancer free. We got the word on Christmas Eve. He still had a 1 year left to play college basketball. So he put his name in the portal. He had like 6 or 7 D2 schools reach out. So he's committed going to Rollins College. So it's just a blessing. But I think is you practice it, because obviously we always talk about circumstances, and we're all going to have those in our lives, but it's just how we deal with them, and usually how we deal with them will determine our outcome. So that's kind of been my thought process each and every day. Just attack everything with great energy, great hope, and understand that we're all going to have our challenges and our setbacks, but it's how we deal with them is the most important thing.
does it always feel natural to you, or do you have to force it sometimes?
It's almost natural, because I think now I'm in a environment as Kansas basketball where you have to be a process driven person, and you also have to have a next play mentality, right? Because every game, every practice, so on and so forth, the expectation, the standards are pretty high. And if you're not a process driven individual, and understanding it's the long game, you're going to hit those patches throughout the your journey, and you're not going to be able to navigate as much as you would if you have a good mindset about positivity.
How do you maintain that in those moments you find out your son has cancer? Like what is the conversation going on in your head where you can take something that's just atrocious news and then be able to channel your energy and your actions into this positive light?
Yeah. Well, I think it starts with having an empathetic mindset. And obviously it's your son that's dealing with this, but we also understand that it's a family dynamic, and how can we make the best situation, the most comfortable situation, the most, you know, relaxing situation for him. And that starts with your mindset and your attitude. But actually, the table was twisted, because while I'm feeling that anxiety, I walk into our house. There's my son Mason, who is of age, has a Miller Lite sitting right on the table. And his first few words from me were, "Well, Dad, I just found I have cancer. Might as well chug a beer." And he chugged the beer, and that's how he approached his diagnosis from beginning to end. He didn't want any pity parties. He didn't want anyone feeling sorry for him. He knew that type of energy was not the energy he needed to get to the other side. He wanted all positivity, all good feelings, and that's how we had it around our house. Like, he had his ups and downs, through the process, but he just wanted an energy that was going to bring him joy, and to continue to push forward the hope and the faith that he needed during that
Uh,
time.
Are there any process type things that people can do to increase their even just general positive levels? Like what can they do day to day to increase their positivity?
I think it starts off with, and everyone handles, everyone handles their beginning of the day differently. I start off my day just with a dose of gratitude. You wake up, and another opportunity to impact others, another opportunity to grow a little bit better than you did yesterday. And that, to me, that's exciting. That's the joy of life, that you have another opportunity, right? And it's just how you deal with it. How do you make it to your advantage without jeopardizing someone else's growth?
Do you ever feel like in these moments of positivity that you're neglecting some of your other emotions, or how do you address those while remaining positive?
Well, you know, as a positive person, so to speak, you're also going to have those times of doubt, those times of, uncertainty. We all go through it. We're all human. I always try to find I call it my compass, to try to get back to center, right? You
Love
know,
that phrase, get back to center.
to get back to center, because in our world of coaching or whatever it may be, there's a lot of imbalances that go along. You sacrifice, family time. Sometimes you sacrifice personal time. So I think it's important that you try to find your way to get back to center. And maybe it's buzzwords that maybe can kind of, get you back to, okay, focus, reset, gratitude, thankfulness. All those words are part of my DNA to kind of get me back when I start to veer off a little bit to the right, or I'm definitely in left field.
I think one thing I had to learn in a harsh truth was because I used to be a really negative person, and I would like to believe now I'm much more positive. But a harsh truth I had to realize was no matter what goes on or what happens, the world still continues. Tomorrow's still going to come. And so for me, it was, I had to learn the process of just because I'm going through something or, something tragic may happen or something that may feel like it's a tragedy, that doesn't have to derail the other elements and components of my life. So knowing when and how to give certain areas attention without letting it bleed into other areas of my life and giving me those, repeated bad days. I like to say if you can have a bad day for no reason, or if you can have a bad day for a reason, you can have a good day for no reason or a good day for a reason.
I like that, Colin. That's a great way to. Matter of fact, while we're talking, I'm actually, I'm a note taker, and in this conversation, you had some things that definitely resonate with me as well. That I, again, to take along the journey. I'm still in that growth and process mindset. I always say that I'm getting a little closer. I'm just not there yet. And tomorrow I will say the same thing, right? They always say that, the important thing about courage is you just continue to move forward regardless of the outcome, regardless of not being able to see the light, right? That's the courage, just to continue to move forward, even though you can't see the finish line.
I think that's what's really, at least to me, like exciting about growth and like getting better. There's no ceiling to it. And it's just like this constant chase and game of just getting better and exciting because every day is like a new challenge. Where I think that can become challenging is for really outcome driven people who are looking for like a finite finish line. But you yourself are never finished until the day that you die. So
Absolutely.
it's like for you, even like in just any general endeavor, how do you balance that like relentless, competitive energy with being able to let go of outcomes?
Well, I think it starts with your mindset of, and you said that you know your destination is when it's done, right? And in life, there's going to be a beginning, a birth. There's going to be a middle, and there's going to be an end. And the middle piece of that journey, which is we call the process, and giving your utmost all to whatever that end goal may be. If it's being a good person, or if it's wanting to graduate, or it's winning a national championship, it's the middle ground that's going to allow you to persevere, and the commitment and the dedication is going to need it to get to that end. And if you can stay habit driven, I just see behind you, I think you have Atomic Habits by James Clear right behind you. Shout out to my man, James Clear. A great book. and I think what we're talking about right now, it's that process, right? We use the, trophies, national championships, titles. They're all going to fade, right? They're all going to fade. But it's that journey, it's that process that you reflect back to how I got there or how we got there. And to me, that's the most exciting thing about life's journey. It's the process that to get from one to the other and just dive yourself and just pour yourself into getting a little bit better each day.
It's hard to explain, I feel like, to your everyday person who see like the, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady things, and they want to say like you're only measured by your championships or whatever, and it lacks just a lot of nuance. And it lacks the mentality that if I can let go of an outcome, you're saying I don't care. That's not the truth. It's not that I don't care. It's that the measurement of my success and well-being goes beyond just
Mm.
the W in the win column or the L in the loss column. It is much more than that. And to sleep peacefully at night, if I gave everything that I possibly could, I can sleep peacefully at night, because if I give everything I possibly can and lose, to me, that is a more fulfilling life than taking a shortcut and winning.
Great point, Colin. And I think it goes back to having some self-awareness, or, you know, your path to your purpose. Like for me, understanding who I am to my core. I know I'm someone who uplifts, someone who impacts, someone who uh, uh, positively influences the people around me. I just happen to do it through my platform of basketball, right? So my focus is always going to be the same: helping people see their value, right? Just trying to stretch their vision and align, their effort with their greater purpose. Because for me right now, I've been in college coaching now for 30 plus years. So yes, to your point, wins are important. But if I want to leave my legacy, it's going to be built through relationships. And that's the scoreboard that I'm playing for right now.
How do you measure that? Like, how do you know your process is working?
I know it's working, at least it's going in the right direction based off the interactions and the relationships and the connections that I have with others. That's the energy that I feel. Today I'm on the treadmill, man, and I'm thinking about this, and I don't know if it even connects, but I said that culture without connections equal confusion and chaos. So culture without connections equal confusion and chaos. I don't know if it means anything, but it meant something to me. So if I'm not connecting and I'm not building relationships, then I'm not sure if my purpose is being fulfilled. Right? I think Coach Beeline said this, great coach, West Virginia, but I think he shared this one with me on a recruiting visit. He said to me, Q, rules without relationships equal rebellion. That's exactly what he said. Rules without relationships equal rebellion. So if it goes to
That's
culture and
fantastic.
connections, man, so I thought about it. Yeah, you can have all these rules, but if you're not building relationships, then what are we doing? How are we impacting the growth of others? So that's what I think gives me some type of a barometer to know if the gap is closing in terms of connecting and building those meaningful and intentional connections.
Culture is such a fascinating discussion. I think sometimes it gets hijacked. How do you define culture?
Mm. In my words, I think culture, what it does is, I think it's the heart and soul of any company, organization, or team, right? Because I think a few things. One, it fuels connection and commitment. And it creates a sense of belonging, and it creates a sense of trust. And when people feel seen, right, Colin, they feel valued and they feel a part of something better and bigger than themselves, right? That emotional connection now, I think it drives deeper of a commitment and a deeper sense of ownership. Does that make sense?
The key words that you hit on to me, right, are commitment and trust.
So true. But you know what it does too? It also powers resiliency and a momentum, and it drives performance. It drives performance because energy is contagious. And in high stakes or high stress environments like Kansas basketball, a culture full of optimism and drive definitely helps teams like us bounce back faster, right? We adapt quicker, and I think it allows to keep the team to go in this direction, especially when results don't come your way or as quickly as we want them to be.
The thing that I love about this, right, is like that commitment, trust piece. The energy that's why can't I think of the word you just said, right? The
Momentum.
no, the contagious energy. I couldn't think of the word
Mm,
contagious. The contagious energy
mm.
is, it all comes down to those things make you care more. Because when you know that when you trust someone and you know that they care about you beyond your capabilities of dribbling a basketball, you know that they do want to win as badly as you do, but that's not that all that matters. It's, you begin to buy in and you're like, okay, I know I'm getting this back. It's not just one sided. I know that it's not just, someone trying to make a fool out of me. They're trying to make me better. And when you can get that back and forth, it makes it easier to show up to the harder workouts, right? It makes it easier in those moments, the pressure moments where it's like, okay, if I do miss this shot, I know my coach still has my back. I know my teammates still have my back. And you're fostering this environment where it's not okay to fail, but you're providing a platform where it's, I can miss, and the mentality is going to be like, hey, we got you. Let's come back the next day.
So true. We have these, well, two things to your point. Um, to get to that end goal, whatever it may be, uh, each and every individual team or person, I think that connection and commitment and communication, use the word caring, you have to nurture those every single day. And when I mean every day, Colin, you have to find ways to nurture, to be better connected, to care a little bit more. And what that may be, you have to find, again, it goes to relationships. How do I get such and such to care or want to care a little bit more? How do I meet them halfway to that point, right? So we spend a great deal of time in those spaces, and we have these non-negotiables we could talk about a little bit later, but regardless of how you feel, regardless of what took place prior to you walking into that locker room, we talk about what showing up means for Kansas basketball. Uh, ownership is the second word that's extremely important. Once you put on the jersey or you sign to come to Kansas, you now are a caretaker. You're a contributor. You own stock in the brand of Kansas. And the last and most important thing we talked about is experiences. Experiences is probably the most important thing. And right behind me, if you see our results pyramid a little bit, at the bottom of the quadrant is experiences. We feel that if we enjoy and we add value and we energize one another each and every day, you come into practice, how can I make a teammate better? Well, what's going to happen is going to drive your belief system, right? And then it's going to drive your alignment system. And if you notice, those three in the blue quadrants are the biggest three pieces of that pyramid, because we feel if we're connected in those three areas, the results, whatever that may be, for us, it's win the national championship and grow each and every day. That's the smallest part. But if we're not taking care of the last three quadrants, results become even harder. So we want to be an experience-driven team versus a results-driven team.
They're like behavioral psychologist over there, just changing behaviors of everybody.
Well, working for Coach Self, you definitely will get your PhD in those areas. There's no doubt about it. There's a reason why he's a Hall of Fame coach.
I do want to dive into him in a moment here, but how do you guys maybe deal with people who come in and don't buy in to
Mm,
the Kansas brand, and how do you get their behavior to align with? Or is
mhm.
it one of those things where if something isn't a right fit, it's, hey, you know, here's the door, you
Yeah,
have the opportunity to go somewhere else if you want.
sure, Colin. That's a great question. It goes back to uh, the framework of culture, at least the framework of culture here at the University of Kansas. And we every day it's about how do we drive it, how do we discuss it, and how do we defend it daily. And for to your point, our framework starts back when they first arrive here on campus in the summer. So we have an 8-week summer program where the student athletes are weight training, they're practicing, they're doing individual workouts, they're doing summer school. We also have culture classes here. So we have 8 weeks of culture where they understand or get to know what showing up means as a Kansas basketball player. They understand a little bit more what it means about ownership, understanding how important experience is in our environment. So I think it starts as soon as they touch down. And the great thing too, Colin, is we have returning players that are like ambassadors of our culture. So they're the ones who are the safeguards or the gatekeepers in the locker room, back in the community, back in the dorms or in the court. So they're comfortable enough to say, "Hey, Colin, we don't. That's not a part of the standards. We don't do it that way here." Because there will be defining moments in those spaces in the practice court or in the community where you see maybe one of your team members maybe not align, if you will, and those are defining moments to really stand on business on your culture. Either you let it go, you don't say anything, right? Well, if you don't say anything, well, then that's the standards of your culture. So that's what we talk about, addressing those things early. So we have a framework. So to your point, we have summer classes, as I mentioned. We have culture cards, right? Every player has a culture card. Every player, every manager, every coach, every academic advisor, everyone in our anyone who has a handprint on Kansas basketball has one of these culture cards. And they're defined too. They understand what the meanings of promoting growth and no side streets. So we're every day we are driving it every single day. So we do, we'll go on field trips to learn about culture leadership, team leadership in other spaces, whether it be a fire department, whether it be the military. So we're constantly, when you talk about driving it, defending it, discussing it, we find ways every single day to make sure there are no holes or leaks that get into our boat.
Talk to me a little bit about how you allow players to be themselves and who they uniquely are while also getting them to embody that culture as well. Or is it, hey, it's this or you're gone type thing?
Yeah, well, you'll have the good thing about what we do, Colin, for the most part, we don't have much drawback or fight back. The reason being is because what we do every single day, we drive it. They see it. They feel it from us. They don't just hear it, they feel it. And when you get young men that are coming into our program that may have come from a different school, right? Or high school, and they're used to different, they're different, a different language, so to speak. But they understand, and I've heard this before from a guy named Phil Beckner. He said that we don't want nothing from you, but we want everything for you. So we don't want nothing from you, but we want everything for you. So when showing up for us means something a little different than you're used to, we understand it takes a little time, right? But again, if your standards are your goals or your outcomes, your results, you want to be the best version of yourself, whether it be as a student athlete, collectively win a national championship or be the best individual you could possibly be? Well, there are criteria that go along with that. So if we're aligned, and I'm going to continue to push you to show up even when you're having a bad day, when you're going through that every single day, they know that the relationship, he doesn't want nothing from me. He just wants everything for me. And if you say that, boom. And then everything's pushed by action. So we can't talk culture and you don't have a culture meeting in 2 weeks. You can't talk about culture and your coaches aren't, showing up the way they need to show up. And the great thing about here is that there's an open dialogue here, Colin. So I can go to Coach Self, or he can go to me, or I can go to a manager, or a manager can go to a coach or a player, etc., and go, Coach Q, you showing up today? Coach Self, you showing up today? Coach, you taking ownership today? So when that's fostered and promoted every day, it's not just something on the wall, right? This is something we drive, discuss, and defend every single day. And when you look at the overall, resume of Coach Self in Kansas basketball, why are they always one of the top teams year in and year out to being discussed to get to a Final Four, a national championship, or win the Big 12? Why? Well, this is the byproduct. But every single day, you have to drive it. And it's no guarantee, but I guarantee you we're going to get as close to our ceiling as possible if we follow
Incredible.
the non-negotiables.
Incredible. The part of that conversation and why I always ask that question to coaches in particular is I get frustrated with the conversations of, oh, that person's just being uniquely them or they're being themselves. Well, sometimes just being yourself is being an asshole, and that's not okay. And you can't just let yourself run around unchecked. And so this conversation about what is accepted and what isn't is awesome, because I'm just becoming a Kansas fan through this.
Well, Colin, like I said, it does take a lot. It does take a lot of work. No doubt about it. And you mentioned earlier, you may have, again, student athletes that are just not, accustomed to our standards here, right? And a lot of people aren't, and it's not built for everyone. It really isn't. But I think when you have a group that can pass it on or pass the torch down, and that's what's so great about Kansas, that we've had great leaders, we've had great ambassadors, and everything starts with our head coach, Bill Self. And when he's living these standards and he's living the expectations, and his actions are showing how important these things are, you almost have to fall in line, Colin. Otherwise, you do look like an asshole because you're standing out, right? You're the one who's standing out when you have 15 other guys doing what they need to do, because that's what successful people do. They don't live in their feelings. They don't live in their moods. And when you live in your moods, you're only going to be inspired when you feel like it. Showing up is doing the things that you don't want to do when you don't feel like it. Showing up is keeping those inconvenient messaging where, no, I don't want to do it, but you know what? Selflessly, I know it's going to impact me, which is going to definitely impact our team, right? So that to me is the most important. To me, that's probably the hardest thing, is keeping inconvenient commitments, because when it's convenient for you, right? But there are going to be a lot of times where it's going to be inconvenient, and you have to be able to keep them regardless of the circumstances. And I know we're chopping it up, man. I'll give you an example of showing up. KJ Adams was a below average free throw shooter. We're playing who ended up being a national champion, UConn, a few years ago. And we're playing him in Allen Fieldhouse. I believe, I don't recall offhand, but we were I think we were down to maybe up one. And he's probably shooting, going into the game, he's probably under 50%. So for UConn, they're probably like, this is the guy we want on the line. And my point of showing up is on Friday, KJ Adams made 2 free throws to help us beat UConn. On Saturday morning, he and a bunch of coaches had to fly down to Texas to bury his mother.
Mm.
So when I'm talking about showing up, regardless of how you feel, regardless of your circumstances, regardless if it's inconvenient, he knew at that moment how important those free throws were for him, our team, and everybody that follows Kansas basketball. And he had to get up the next morning to bury his mom. So when you share those stories with newcomers, they understand, okay, showing up is just not showing up here at Kansas. They really don't care how I feel. It's about the team. It's about putting others first. And I think that's something that we talk about, just being fully present, coming to practice to work, come in practice to grow, and that, because that's how successful people operate. So we try to put them in those type of situations in practice. So when the moments do present themselves, they are best prepared.
I would do a lot of work in identity. That's actually pretty much where all my work comes in, and talk about earning like the identity that you want, earning the values and characteristics. And I always give like a precursor. Be careful of the type of person you wish to be, because there's a cost that comes with that.
So true.
And so you can't ask to be courageous and live an easy life. And so the full circle moment becomes when you get put in these hardship moments or these challenging things that you have to show up for. That's a time for you to earn who you said you wanted to be. And that's exactly what you asked for. It may not come in the manner that you had hoped, but it came, and now is your time to earn it. And that story, there's no doubt in that kid's life, anytime he goes to do anything, he'll be able to say that showing up for others is exactly who he is. That's exactly who he is. And there'll never be a shred of doubt in his mind.
Absolutely. It still brings me a sense of pride to be a part of his life, and to be, we won a national championship together. We buried his mom together. I mean, you see how important of a young man that he is, in the light that he's going to be able to help so many people that go through struggles and go through challenges. And, he obviously went through one that we all were there for him during that difficult time.
Now, people like him, are they harder to find in the transfer portal NIL era? Have we lost that in our athlete community, or is it still out there?
I think it's still out there. I really do. I'm a big believer of taking a high road. I just think you may have to vet a little bit more to really dive in to those spaces, Colin. What helps us here in terms of identifying potential Kansas Jayhawks, we do what we call an energy chart here. And what that is, it's all the stats that don't show up on the stat sheet. Deflections, 50-50 ball, dive on the floor, charges, offensive rebound attempts. Those are some of the intangibles that are big to Coach Self in our basketball program. So it just may take a little bit more diving. Obviously, you all want to see how talented that young man is, shooting the basketball, rebound, whatever it may be. But then you want to see is, okay, what did he just do when his shot went up? Even though there was probably a 30% chance that he was going to rebound the ball. But you know what? Watch this. Wow. He just went after the ball he couldn't get. He actually got his fingertip on the basketball. Is he a second, third effort guy? Is he a guy who really cares? Is this a guy that sort of bring intangibles to impact winning? So now you see how the excitement goes. Wow, that's something that we believe in. So you just got to have to dive in a little bit deeper to vet exactly whether he is a fit for your program. And I think guys like that, and when we talk about culture, and when you watch the little small little things that they do that don't show up in the stat sheet, they they adjust a lot quicker and a lot better than maybe someone who may take cut corners, as you said, or maybe not give the second and third effort. So you look for talent, but you also want to see, do they have a motor? Do they do the things that don't show on the stat sheet as well?
How do you balance on court character versus off court character? And the way I describe that is exactly how you just described, the guys who are relentless on the court, effort guys. But sometimes you get people who are like that, who are committed to the game, but in their own personal life, they're not as committed to doing the right thing. So it's, where does that stack up, and how do you accurately measure that?
Well, Colin, I think it just goes back to our non-negotiables, because I think there's a correlation to it of showing up, taking ownership, and create great experiences. Showing up, ownership, take and create great experiences for others. You can do that on the court. You can do that in life, right? There's a correlation. So 3 things. I'm not asking, or we're not asking for 20. Show up, because that's what successful people do. Take ownership. Be accountable, right? Gratitude and entitlement can't coexist,
Love that.
right? They can't coexist. So channel or focus on 3 things with your student athletes. Don't make it 20 things, because you want them just to condense. And if I show up every single day and I come to work, I come to learn, I come to grow, I'm showing up. Okay, I'm on time for class. I'm engaged. I want to grow, so I'm going to ask questions. Okay. Same correlation on the court, right? I'm going to take ownership. If I want to get a great grade, then I got to make sure I study. I got to make sure I go to my tutors, right? I got to make sure that if I'm having a question, I got to meet the professor after class to make sure that I understand this correctly. Ownership. Experiences. You're walking through campus. Everyone is saying hello to you because you just had 30, you scored 30 points the night before, and they're all patting you on the back. And you say, hey, man, hey, what's your name? Hey, what's your, what's your major? Where you from? What? You're from, man, that was my rival high school. Really? Oh, dude. Wow. I didn't even know that. You just gained a new friend. You just created an unbelievable experience. That young person is going to walk away, or whoever it may be, going, you know what? Collins, that dude just had 30, but he took time to say hello to me, ask me some questions about me. It wasn't about him. You feel me? You see where I'm going? So again, that's why, and I get excited about this, because I think it will make not only our program better, but it will make our university better, and it'll make our community better, and it'll make our world better. I'm a big believer of those things, that if you just dial into a few things and you pour into it, you're able to do both on and off the court. It's a correlation.
So you are like Mr. Shredded over there. You are, almost 60 years old and like the most shredded man on
60.
earth.
I'm getting there. Close.
I said almost. I said
4
almost.
years.
So
Uh,
how does I mean, you look like you're like 30 over there. So it's like, how does that all play in, and where do you find the time to be super fit and healthy
yeah.
and do all the things that are required to be elite in the basketball space, which time is something that isn't always there when you're in your spot?
Well, Kyle, I strongly believe that they're both connected. Individual personal fitness, I think, aligns with a championship-driven team, because they both reflect discipline. They both reflect high standards, right? And it goes back to we're asking our players to be in the best shape mentally, physically they possibly can. I just feel, again, I need to take action. They have to see me also taking care of myself through this long journey as well. So I think it builds resilience, it builds confidence. I think because every you know adversity reveals who you are, right? And we're going to go through some adversity, but it also refines who you become in the process. And championship teams are built on consistency, and they're built on work ethic, and they're built on accountability. And those are the same qualities that that you develop and display through your personal fitness, right? And it elevates, personal fitness. I think it also elevates, your team performance, and elevates your culture, because when individuals are physically fit, right, don't they bring more energy?
Absolutely, they
Right.
do.
Their focus is better. They're more durable, which I think raises the competitive level, and I think it sets a tone for a relentless culture, high performance team.
You talk a lot about Bill Self and how he's great and how he's adaptable as a coach. What does it mean to be adaptable as a coach?
Well, I'll give you an example here in a second. This is probably a little long-winded question, but Colin, I've been fortunate and somewhat spoiled to, I mean spoiled. I mentioned you get your PhD here, but I've been incredibly fortunately and truthfully spoiled, because I get a chance to work for and alongside the greatest team builder, the greatest culture architect builder, and the greatest relationship developer in all of sports, working for Bill. And he has taught me more than just how to win games. He's taught me how to win people. And if you ever want a master class on how to lead people or build belief or win the right way, just watch him work. And his adaptability is amazing, because he understands the the dynamics of young people, but he's also curious as well. So it's not always we're going to do it this way, but I want to talk to you and get your thoughts and value your opinion and hear your voice. Like, he is really transparent in that way. He's very transformational with his players. They always know exactly where he stands all the time. And that's the unique thing about Coach Self. Again, it just goes back to your leadership. Our culture runs through Bill Self. And I just been fortunate to be one of his facilitators to continue to promote and foster the things that he embodies, the thing that he believes in, and the things that he feels gives us the best chance to win. I have an example. Going back to adaptability and talking about a few words that I shared earlier. Um, now you're a Kansas basketball fan, and I'm sure you remember that pivotal game back in the first Monday of April of 2022, right? And playing against North Carolina. But Coach Self, uh, was talking to our team at the last timeout of the national championship, right? And David McCormick, for all you Jayhawkers, you know who David McCormick is. David McCormick hits this jump hook that he's worked on 10,000 times. And he worked on it 10,000 times for that particular moment. That jump hook put us up 3. And so we're on defense. We end up getting a stop, okay, with, gosh, I don't know, it was like maybe 4.6 seconds left, I think it was. We get a stop. All we have to do, Colin, is inbound the ball. Hold the ball, game's over. They're going to foul us. Well, we do the opposite. We do get the ball in, but one of our players dribbles and accidentally steps on the sideline out of bounds. So we just gave the ball back to Carolina, and the ball is in front of their bench, and we're up 3. And I remember the players coming to the huddle, and we have again, talking about defending your culture, discussing it, we have terminology that we use for us. So a play that doesn't work or whatever it may be. Hey, we talk about next play, next play. So everybody's in the huddle saying next play. We didn't want to stay in that space where we just turn the ball. We had to think next play. And we have a saying in our program we actually ask all recruits, hey, would you rather be down 1 with the ball to win? Or would you rather be up 1 and you need a defensive stop to win? At Kansas basketball, we want the latter. We want to be up 1 and we need a stop to win the game. Here we are to win a national championship. All the marbles are on the table. Millions and millions of people are watching. So in the huddle, coach has an idea, at least a strategy. He goes in the huddle. Hey, guys. Hey, what do you think? Let's do this. Let's foul. As soon as they get in, let's foul. Because you know what? If we foul them and they make 2 free throws, we're still up 1. We're still up 1. So the guys are looking at coach, and you can see some hesitancy in their body language, even in their eyes. And I recall Jalen Wilson, who's playing for the Brooklyn Nets right now. I won't say exactly how he said it, but basically he says, Coach, that's not how we guard. Let's guard out. Let's do what we do. Let's switch 5. Hey, this is how we guard. This is the way you taught us. Let's guard it this way. And I'm in the huddle going, wait a minute. It's a game point. Hall of Fame coach goes, okay, is it what you guys want to do? That you want to guard it? Okay. So he's giving power to his players at game point, Colin. A Hall of Fame coach. That embodied the true sense of leadership because, again, he wanted their input. He wanted their voices to be heard, and he valued their thoughts. Powerful of a leader, because most leaders want to do it their way. But because of his relationship with his players and the connection that they all had, they were comfortable enough to tell Coach Self at that moment, Coach, let's not do it that way. Let's do it this way. And for him to take a step back and go, okay, all right, we're going to do it that way. We're going to switch 5. And that switch 5, Colin, won us a national championship. And if you recall, we overcame a 16-point deficit to win a national championship, which today is still the largest comeback in men's national championship history.
I remember the game too. You guys won my bracket for me that year. I had you guys picked as the national champions. So I remember all this, and now getting to see behind the curtain, those conversations in that timeout. I mean, super amazing. And how long do you think, I know you're speaking for him here, how long do you think it took Coach Self to get to that point where he could have that trust to have that conversation? Because like you said, I won't pick out some college basketball coaches, but I have a feeling some are going to be like, no, we're doing this. I don't want your input.
Yeah. I think it just goes back to the relationships. Coach is big on, can I trust you? And that's the biggest thing he wants his guys to understand. And trust in him is the small things. It's not making the heroic play that I trust you. It's the small little details. Can I trust you? And I know you're a football guy, but in our case, can I trust you if there's a ball screen and the guy rolls to the basket and you're the tag guy, you're the helper guy? Can I trust you that you're going to be in the right spots? Small things like that. Can I trust you to be in the right? Can I trust you to be in the right spot? Can I trust you if you're going to run this play out of bounds that you're going to execute because you're going to do your job? And with trust comes with coaches. Just do your job. Just do your job. It's the small things. But again, Colin, it takes time. It takes time to get, because we as coaches have been doing this for an extended period of time, right? That's why it's, when you have young players, they may struggle early versus having a guy who's been in your program for 3 or 4 years. because he knows what that trust level means. The newcomer is still trying to figure it out, but you got to stay with them. You can't give up on them. You got to maybe watch some extra film. You may have to do some extra reps, whatever the case may be. But coach is always watching. He always praises our players, but he also allows them to know how we need to get better. And I think all our players respect that.
Does your environment enable him to coach players hard too? Like, can they receive hard coaching?
They can, because again, I think when you're sharing and you're looking your players in the eye, and it goes back to Phil's statement is, I don't want Colin, look at me, man. I don't want anything from you. I don't want nothing, but I want everything for you. So you being here at 6:45 to have breakfast, so I make sure that you're fueled and your body's ready to go, because you told me 6 months ago you want to look like Coach Q. And they laugh. Well, this is what Coach Q does. If he's going to get his 200 grams of protein, which you said you want to, and you want to have Coach Q shoulders, well, that means we're going to eat 5 times a day, and the first meal is at 6:45. But if you told me this is what you want to do, I'm aligned, man, and I'm going to do everything in my power to help you receive and help you achieve your goals. So again, now they're hearing it from me, and now I'm along the journey with them. So I'm getting you up, because I want to see you become the best version of yourself. And when you talk to young people like that, I think there's a connection. They're not only hearing you, but it goes back, they're feeling you. And if you can get players to feel you, you're going in that right direction. You're going to achieve, or they're going to achieve the goals that they want set out for, because you believe in them.
It's such a powerful concept, and it goes back to that commitment and trust piece that you were talking about earlier. Where when a player trusts you, implicitly, it's almost like it's like a faith thing too. It's like, I have full faith in you to give me the right advice, to tell me the right things, because I know you're here for me just as much as you, if not more. And it's so rare. And I always do my best to give the Buffalo Bills their flowers too. I was there for 4 days. In 4 days, I could feel the impact of that organization. They were let me remind all my listeners too, they were 6-10 the year before I got there. So they're 6-10. I come in that rookie class and end up being a really good rookie class. A lot of those guys still there today. Every single coach knew who I was, knew my background, knew I was from Pittsburgh, knew I was engaged, right? They took the time to learn about me as a player. And I came from 2 good schools. I come from Bucknell, I came from Pitt, like good coaching staffs, but like, I cannot state enough the difference in energy, which you talked about, contagious energy before, that Sean McDermott, Leslie Frazier was the DC at that time, Bob and Bobby Babich. Bobby Babich is now the DC. They were unbelievable. And you can tell when it's real and authentic versus when it's fake. And, obviously, wasn't good enough at that time, but like, that was still the best 4 days of football I ever played, just because like, it just felt more meaningful. And it's incredible. And a lot of what you're talking about just feels so similar to those guys, because I remember coming home after I got cut and telling a lot of my boys, I'm like, the Bills are going to win. Like, they're going to be good. And they're like, get out of here. And, 5 years or 6 years later now, I'm like, hey, now the next step for them is just winning the Super Bowl, but they're going to get there. I can promise you. So I'm in full alignment with everything that you're saying. It hits me. It hits home for me. And it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, Colin, you mentioned the Bills. You mentioned a few things about knowing your background, knowing where you're from, knowing the schools you went to. I mean, I see your eyes lighting up. I don't see any dejection about you being cut. You're more because of those connections, right? That we talked about. That's the thing you're going to take from that situation. Like the Bills, and like us, and I mentioned that the culture is the heart and soul of any organization and program. And when you focus on the right things, which the Bills have done, and obviously you're a prime example, is that when you focus on the people and you focus on the culture and you focus on the process, we feel that if you're faithful to all three of them, the product, the result, the outcome, the win, whatever it will be, it will rise and it will meet the standards that you want to attain. It will rise and meet the standards that you want to attain. Because when we invest in people, like you said, when you invest in people, you're building more than just a better team. You're building great relationships, and you believe in those expectations because they spread, right? They spread because you're creating transparent, intentional connections and relationships, man. If people can just understand that it's not so much the product, but it's the people, right? Bill always talks about, his dad passes that. Don't worry about the mules, just load the wagon. Don't worry about the mules, just load the wagon. And your investment in people will allow that performance, will keep retention. It will drive success. It will bring such an alignment, such a belief to your program or your organization to take you far, far and beyond that you could ever imagine.
What are you most proud of in your 12 years at Kansas?
I think the most proud, so many highlights, but I think I'm most proud is that I'm leaving the University of Kansas better than I found it. I put a handprint, and just a small handprint, on not only the basketball program, but I believe the athletic department and the university as a whole. I've totally immersed and engaged myself outside of the walls of our basketball program, which allowed me to, again, develop new friendships and relationships, but it also allowed me to grow, away from the basketball court. It's put me in other spaces that I would never imagine because of the interactions that were being forged, throughout my 12 years.
I could talk to you for 5 more hours. I have like a list of questions. I think I asked 3 on here. I'm gonna wrap it there, man. What an incredible conversation. Kansas has a new fan in me. That's for certain. Can't thank you enough. If people want to reach out to you, people want to get at you, if you're doing anything, want to promote, please tell us how and where we can find you.
I'll give you my cell number, 785-393-9945, 785-393-9945. If you really want to connect and talk, please give me a call. I'm on social media. I'm on Twitter at FQ212 and Instagram at QFit50. I may have to change that now, Colin, because 60's rolling up on me, Mayor, here in a little bit. But I appreciate the time. I appreciate you allowing me to share, but also allowing me to grow, man. I take notes too, and I also got a little bit better, from this experience. So I thank you so much, Colin, for having me.
Oh, I can't thank you enough, man. This has been a pleasure for me, and I'm glad that you were able to take some notes. It's the type of person you are, which I've learned since we've connected. So can't thank you enough. Listeners, can't thank you guys enough for tuning in. Download the podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel. 5 stars only, baby. See you guys next week. Thanks, Coach Q.
We'll see everybody.